If you are somebody that is watching this and you're somebody that's consciously aware of the events that are going on in the world, whether we're talking about politics, the food, the mainstream media, just whatever, bro. If you're somebody that is essentially, you're not an NPC. You're actually somebody that knows how to think for your very own self. You're not a sheep. You're not all these other just robots that are walking around us 24/7. You need to make it your primary goal to become as financially successful as possible. And this is something that I've been saying for months. I've always been saying why conscious people that are aware about the events that are going on in the world, whether if we're talking about these conspiracy theories, whether if we're talking about the politics, the mainstream media, the news, the food, all this stuff, you need to make it your primary goal to become as financially successful as possible. And the reason why I do that, say that, is just simply due to the fact that, bro, we have like normalized it for people that are like this consciously aware about the things that are going on in the world to be broke, right? It's like, bro, a lot of these people are just broke. They have no money. We have no money, right? And it's like very concerning because it's like, how do you, and these people are always the ones that are preaching so passionately about all these things on social media, whether if we're talking about conspiracy theories, politics, news, the food. You guys love to talk about this stuff so passionately, yet you're broke. And unfortunately, the truth about this reality is everything is centered around money. So it's like, if you actually want to make a difference and if you actually want to make a change, in the way that this society is essentially just structured and set up, that we have to make it our primary goal to become as financially successful as possible. They do not want wealth to go in the hands of people that are conscious, bro, because the moment that happens, literally the whole system just collapses, right? Like this whole system, this whole world, as we know of it to be, just literally collapses just like that. Right. And so it's like, you guys love to passionately talk about these things, like whether we're talking about conspiracy theories, whether we're talking about, the political events that are going on in the world, whether we're talking about, the way that they poison our food and the lands 24/7. These things are 100% true. And don't get me wrong, I'm also like, something about me is I love information and knowledge that makes me go down a deep rabbit hole on anything in life. It could be politics, it could be just the secret intricacies of life. It could be anything. But I truly love information that actually makes me go down a deep rabbit hole, that actually makes me think about like, this is very interesting. Like, makes me even question the way that I was like taught and raised and, learned about things growing up. So don't get me wrong, I love these conversations, I love these topics too. But bro, like, we gotta think and we gotta realize and understand that, having these discussions and topics is completely pointless if we don't have the financial capability to do something about it. You know what I mean? It's completely pointless if, we got rent due the next day and we don't necessarily have anything to do about it, right? And so it's really just about us understanding that we need to get our priorities straight. And bro, like, let's just be honest. Like, let's just keep it a buck for a second. People on social media are going to continuously say that we need a revolution, right? That we need a riot all over America. That we need to kind of prove to the people that are responsible of running society that, hey, we are tired of their BS. I'm tired of it as well. I'm fed up with it as well. All of us are. Who likes paying taxes? Who likes doing all this stuff? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Unless if you're the epitome of like a robot and a sheep, cool, right? But realistically, if you want to consider yourself a human being, who likes to pay to live? Who likes to pay taxes? Who likes to do all these things? These things should, if we really think about it, they should be free, right? And so it's really just about realizing and understanding, that we can be as passionate about these topics as we want. We could talk about these things. We could, spread awareness. But bro, none of that is actually gonna help if we're still broke. We just have to think about it. Like, nothing is gonna happen if we're still broke. People will always say, we need a revolution, we need a riot, we need to prove these guys that they can't just do whatever that they want to do with our lives. I'm gonna be honest, that will never happen. And let me explain why. That's never going to happen. Excuse me. That's never going to happen. And I'm gonna explain why. Because, like, what we like to do is we love to spread awareness on things but never take action. Like, how many times have you heard people on social media talk about, we need a revolution, we need a riot? It's never happened. It's never happened. Remember the Epstein files, right? What happened? Nobody rioted, nobody protested, absolutely nothing happened. So for you to sit here and say that we need a revolution and a riot, let's just be honest. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And so the best thing that all of us should be doing and focused on is actually becoming financially successful in a way that actually suits us, so that we can actually find ways to combat the system. And what I recommend everybody doing is actually looking into self-sustainability. But essentially, like, we all need to be focused on becoming financially successful. Bro, like, I'm gonna be honest too, bro. You know how many times I've seen people talk about how we need a revolution, how we need like a reset, how we need to like ride over all over America and just the world, kind of proving to these people that we're fed up with their BS. We are, bro. I'm fed up with it, bro. Like, and you know, I would love for that to happen, but let's just be honest, it's never going to happen. It's absolutely never going to happen, because what we have to understand is, bro, we as humans naturally love to like talk the talk, but we never walk the walk. Naturally, as humans, we love to talk about things. We love to, you know, imagine things happening, but we never love to put them into action. We never love to actually, you know, put them up into existence. We never actually like physically manifest these things into existence. You know, we as humans are just naturally like that. We love to talk about things, but we never make them into a reality. And so that's the unfortunate truth. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, just for a few reasons. Excuse me. You know, there's always going to be those many people that are just kind of comfortable with the way that life is, and you know, I guess there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. These guys are okay with paying taxes, they're okay with, you know, working a job, they're okay with doing all these things that I feel like nobody should necessarily be comfortable doing, but they're an NPC, unfortunately, right? And second of all, it's just, you know, it's not gonna happen. If we're being realistic, I mean, like I mentioned with the files, you know, nothing ever happened with those being released. Nothing. So it's like, for you to sit here and say all that when you're broke just doesn't make sense. Like, let's just be honest, right? And I know, like, even money is a monetary value that, you know, is created by the federal government. But at the same time, like, why not get as much of it as possible? Well, at the end of the day, it's really just like an energetic signature that you can use or attract things to you. But it's like, at the end of the day, like, why not get as much of it as possible so that you can actually help change the world for the better, so that you could actually help change the system for the overall better, right? And when I say conscious, bro, that can mean like many different things. I mean, because being conscious comes in like many different forms, you know. But ultimately, at its core, just being conscious is just simply being aware, not falling for everything and anything that you decide to see on social media, or just in general anything in life. Not falling for all the things that you decide to get taught in school and just overall your life, you know, just actually being able to question things and understand and realize that, hey, like, this doesn't make sense. You know, being able to like actually just be able to think for yourself. That's literally all it is. And you know, people love to call people like that conspiracy theorists, even though all it literally is you just being aware. Like, you know something is off, you know things are wrong, things don't really align with you, right? Unlike everybody else, it's literally just a walking robot. And so ultimately, like, I feel like we shouldn't necessarily be motivated to become rich or successful, to fill out our earthly desires, to fill out, or, you know, do all these things to provide for our family, to give money back. I mean, of course, these things are important, but it's more so that we can actually change things for the better, right? To actually change the structure of how life essentially is, right? To literally change things for the overall better, right? And more importantly, so that we can all live our lives in our ideal images, in the way that we all envision our lives to be, right? And that's obviously like the most important thing. But for us to just sit here and to be passionately talking about all these things, you know how many people I see on TikTok or just Instagram that love to just passionately talk about all these different things, and I agree with all of them, 100%. I agree with all of them, right? And it's true. I mean, you know, like, there's facts to back it up. We have seen all of this stuff, right? But it's just like, dude, you know, it just doesn't make sense to talk about these things if your life is just in a complete financial mess. It doesn't make sense if, you know, we have rent due tomorrow morning, right? And you're over here talking about, you know, all these things that don't necessarily add any sort of inherent value to building our ideal lives, right? And these things are important to know, but we just need to pour all that attention and energy into actually building us our very own stuff, our very own things, so that we can actually combat and do whatever, like, actually do something about the way that things were structured in today's society. That way we can all live lives that we all ideally envisioned us to be able to live our lives. Just more importantly, just living a life that's more closely aligned with us, right? Because, you know, unfortunately, everything in this world is centered around money. And so if you don't have money, you know, to just talk about these things is just completely pointless, right? just completely pointless. It's good to be aware of these things, but ultimately without money, there's nothing that we can do, right? It's just going to be all talk, but no walk the walk. And that's something I'm just tired of seeing. If you're not actually going to take action on something, then just like, why talk about it, right? It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, y'all, so that was pretty much the video. If you are somebody that's watching this and you're consciously aware of the events that are going on in the world, and being consciously aware just simply means you're actually just aware, right? You just actually don't fall for everything that you decide to see on the media, the news, just everything in your life. You actually know how to question things, and that's really just the thing that's most important. Then you need to make it your primary goal to become financially successful, bro. I don't care, and I've been saying this for literally ages, and I will continue to say it. People that are conscious need to become financially successful, and that includes you. But yeah, yo, so I'm gonna go ahead end the video off that. Let me know y'all's thoughts down below in the comments. I'm gonna go ahead end the video off that. Thank y'all for watching, and that's Keen Wellness, and I'm out.